Right now, I'm involved in early to mid-sized businesses that have a primary technology aspect to them. My venture capital firm focuses primarily on early stage investing, so we act as an angel investor to urban entrepreneurs who are in urban corridors throughout the country. And so some of them are very small, with as few as um, 6 to 7 or 8 people, and then there are others that are quite larger than that. H360 Capital itself has nearly 10 partners, 6 associate partners, and over the summer we had nearly 18 different fellows who worked on a variety of projects for H360 Capital, that firm that I started and I act as managing partner for. And then there are some businesses like others that I consult with that are very large, that are as many as 200 to say maybe as high as 3,000 employees. I started when I was 7, came from poverty, and was told I would never be anything. My grandfather asked me to film him as he was preaching one day, and I did. And I began to sell church tapes, and those church tapes began to start a business to film weddings and conventions and you name it, anything that needed to be filmed and put on tape. I was doing it and selling the product as a result of that. I actually participated at that time in something called uh, well, actually, I forgot what it's called. But basically, a
Must have been
pre-sale.
very
That's what it's called.
influential.
Pre-sale. That's what it is. Pre-sale. I learned that concept from the Young Entrepreneur Society movie that I was in. Pre-sale. I said I never pre-sold in my life. I said, oh wait, yes I did. I sold tapes before I paid them, and that was an interesting experience. And I went from there in my childhood to publishing magazines.
Okay, you give us it's just amazing. Give us a size, a way to understand the scope of what you were doing, even at 8 years old. How much money were you bringing in at 8 years old?
6 figures a month in net. When I went to starting to publish magazines, we were pulling in. I think we had several large Fortune 500 sponsors who sponsored and advertised on our products, and I had on staff almost 120 people for our magazine. Absolutely. Oh God, who can outdo what they did at 7? I think Cameron and Farah and anybody else would say it's very difficult to outdo what you can do when you have cocoa butter on your face and people can pluck your cheeks. I mean, it is very difficult. I have memory gaps. I mean, there were things that I was willing to do when I was 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 that I'm not willing to do now. I used to cold call people, but I can't do it like I used to now. I mean, because I'm a prominent figure now, so I can't just be cold calling saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You get depressed. You go through ups and downs. It's part of life. Well, I would want to be if I think the only thing that I could think of that would just be like incredible for me is I would want to do something that would be on the level of Oprah. Now
Hmm.
that means I'd have to start a company that would just be like a talk show or something. I mean, because we have to look at Oprah for what it is. Oprah has made many people millionaires just by having her on her show or being on her show. And the thing that I like about that reality is that when you're someone as powerful as Oprah or connected as Oprah, you have the ability at any point in time to start the next Facebook.
Hmm.
So I mean, I wouldn't have said Facebook because there are things that precede Facebook, like you know, Facebook really got big when Oprah had Mark Zuckerberg on her show. Twitter got even bigger when Oprah put Twitter on her show. So because then you had people who watched Oprah, using Twitter. So I wouldn't go to any of those things. I would do something that acts as a foundation. I would probably try to start a talk show, and then we also remember that Oprah makes cash, right? You talk about money. I don't know if anybody makes more cash than Oprah. Like I know Mark
Mm.
Zuckerberg doesn't make more cash. He might be worth more, but he don't make more cash.
Right, right.
It's cash. Yeah. Let me borrow your
Oh,
cash. Well, I call it deconstructing. So if you want to be the next president of the United States, certainly you deconstruct. You need a chief of staff. Okay, how do you get a chief of staff? Blah 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 blah. You go back down. Well, I probably need to have a better political career. So I want to be a senator at one point or a governor. But before that, in order for me to be a senator or governor, I got to maybe be a city mayor or I got to be a council person. How do I get to that level? Now I got to raise some money, start a campaign, get people around me, advisors, deconstruct. So you get to the point where you are and you've got a plan in place. I just made it sound a lot simpler than it is, but this actually is the way it works. I mean, if I want to be the governor of New Jersey, I got to first get into politics. I got to decide whether I'm a Republican or Democrat. Who am I going to raise money from? How am I going to raise that money? What kind of campaign am I going to run it on? What kind of points am I going to use to run that campaign, etc. The first thing I would do is call three people that I really trusted and tell them that I wanted them to be involved. I'd give them a certain amount of equity in the company before it started, tell them my idea and say, I'm giving it to you automatically. Sit down and have a
wow.
plan with them, a strategy with them, tell them what I wanted to do, have them give back feedback, and then we would put together a 10-day strategic plan, get a business plan started. We would focus on different elements of the business plan. We would assign ourselves certain responsibilities, and we would probably have maybe 3 meetings in between that 10-day period. At the
Wow.
end of the
This
10
is
days,
great.
we would have an attack plan, and that attack plan would be, okay, now we're going to reach out to who do you have in your network? Who do I have in my network? Who do you have on your Facebook? Who do you have on your LinkedIn? Who are we going to reach out to? Well, you reach out to that person. I will double down on the other person. We'll reach out to 2 people at the New York Times because we can get some help from them. We'll also go over to Viacom, see what they think, what it happens. Get 10 proposals out there, respond, wait for a response. Send out an email,
All right,
wait
let
3
me
days
stop
later.
you there. Let me stop you there. This is great, and this is like I can see you're going to the zone here. So first thing you do is interesting. You're not even talking about the product or raising capital. You're talking about getting the top 3 people around you. So building like a brain trust or a board of advisors.
We
How do
call
you
that
think
thought
about?
leadership. We call it thought leadership, right? Right. I want thought leaders around me. Right. In corporate America, they call it thought leadership, which means you have people around you that are able to respond to tasks and also add value to them. Right. And the best way to get people like that is to give them value automatically. Well, I think any entrepreneur who has never started a business certainly should have a business plan. Because I've started over 100 businesses in my life, I, as I just showed you, I don't need a business plan.
100 businesses. Wow.
Yeah, I don't need a business plan for that. Now they've not been all my own businesses. I've started businesses for other people, but I I think business plans are important, and I think anytime you are going into something you've never been into before, you should probably have a business plan for it. So the most important parts are the executive summary, your mission and vision statements. Number one, what's the mission of the business, and then number two, what is the vision? Where do you see? What do you want to see happen for the business? That's important. You got to set that down from the beginning. You got to set down what the idea is, and who the people are around you, and what are the requirements for that business to succeed. Now, the reason why you want to have this in place, not only is it for capital reasons, so that you can go to a venture capitalist and ask for money or an angel investor, etc. But you want to have that in place so when you bring people onto your team, they can read something that
Right,
automatically
right.
makes them count, you know, acquainted to what you're trying to build. Well, I heard a motivational speaker say once online, and I don't remember his name. He says, when you get to the point where you have a desire for your business to succeed as much as you have a desire to breathe,
Wow.
then you've gotten to the point to where you're going to be successful. Something like that. Something. He said. I paraphrase it. I tried to make it sound a little better. So you're just going to work as hard as you can until you can't work anymore. How do you get that way? You can't train that desire. You gotta want it. You gotta want it. Michael Jordan says, when he talks about playing basketball, he ain't the greatest basketball player ever. When you think about it, because he didn't want it. He wanted it. And so, if you want to live a life that is fruitful and is purposeful to you, you gotta want it. Now, I'm saying, as a consequence, sometimes when you want it, you might forget to eat. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you got to forget to eat, but I'm saying as a consequence, you're gonna forget some days because you're just so in tune to it. Now, also, there's a difference between what you're doing and what your purpose is. So, my purpose is strong. I mean, I've got to work so that I can have money to pay for the things that I want to do in life. Number one, you are already an entrepreneur because you want to become one.
I like that, but it's deep, but it's true.
Yeah, it's very deep. Might be too deep for some people. Number two, right? An entrepreneur creates something that others need, solves a problem, but doesn't become a part of the problem. When you become a part of the problem, you're no longer an entrepreneur. You are a problem maker or a troublemaker. Number three, allow yourself to be exposed to opportunities so that you can realize what it is that you want to do with your entrepreneurial spirit. So a lot of people say, how do I become an entrepreneur? Because they don't know what they want to do, right, Michael? They don't know what kind of business they want to start. Well, that's the problem is you gotta expose yourself to many things. Like you gotta go on to virtual speaker series videos. You gotta listen to speakers, let them expose you to things, let Michael question them so that you can say, I like certain aspects of what Hezekiah Griggs is saying, but I also like certain aspects of what I heard Cameron Johnson say, or I like certain aspects of what I heard that other speakers say. I actually know now that if I add those aspects together, it almost means that I should be, starting a law firm, or it also almost means that I should be, starting a medical manufacturing business, or it almost means that I should, look back at what I'm doing at home and maybe I already have a business. I just need to turn it up a notch, bang, like Emerald Lagasse would say, put a little spice in there, bang it. A 10-day plan is what we call a bootstrap plan, right? You're just like, you just, because you don't ever want momentum to leave you, right? Don't ever let momentum fade, right? So when you first start to come up with an idea, you got to keep that idea rolling. And
Gotta
10
act
days
immediately.
says you act immediately. 10 days is enough time for you to sit down and think, meet, share, think, meet, share, change, correct, share, think, meet, share. And so when those things happen, you're refining it, you're cultivating it, and you're matriculating a product that is going to be ultimately better at the end of the 10 days. And now, on the 10th day, you become a part of a business. You now have a business. You now, underneath the confines, even in some states, under the law, you've already organized a business.
And can you tell me more about what that strategic, for people who haven't really, and I'm sure you have a unique way of doing it, creating that strategic plan. What are some components of it?
Strategic plan is my long-term, short-term, and immediate goals. Immediately would be to reach out to people, get instant response feedback on my idea. Short term would be signing contracts, getting business, getting
Yeah.
startup liquidity, cash positions, etc. Long term would be what is the development cycle of the business, right? Phase one, phase two, phase three, and what are the needs in those long term activities. So
So
plan it that way. As I said to you earlier, Michael, nobody cares about your idea. I think ultimately nobody really cares about the idea. It's always the people behind the idea that make it so. That make it so. If Mark Zuckerberg wasn't the CEO of Facebook, he certainly would be one of the senior leaders at Facebook. Now, I want you to hear what I just said to you. Right. I want you to hear what I just said to you. He might not have been the creator, but certainly Facebook would have made sure he was a part of it if Facebook exists in another iteration. Because there's something about Mark Zuckerberg that says to people, I want to invest in him. That's clear because a lot of people have invested in him. And as a result of that, we all use his product. I use it religiously just for business, let alone for personal. So I think that's really important, right? Putting that into perspective. You have got to be the strongest asset in your business, right? And when I say that to you, when I say that to you,
mm,
it shouldn't matter if somebody else has your idea because
right.
if you believe in yourself, then 40,000 people can be doing what you want to do and you'll still be successful at it because you are who you are. Michael Jordan, again, competed against thousands and thousands of people who wanted to get into his position, but he believed that he was the best and he became the best. Expectations drive results. You're going to have to share your plan, obviously, to get feedback from other people. Now, don't share it with everybody. Specific tactics. Well, there are priorities. If you look at my schedule, my schedule is broken up into five five blocks. It's personal, which beats everything. Personal things override everything. Then there's a high priority. Right, everything I consider high priority. If the White House called me right now, I I would venture to say that I probably would have to put that as a high priority thing. Uh, I mean, I would say, excuse me, the White House is calling me. I don't know what's going on. I need to pick up the phone. Um, High priority. Number three would be business level one, like uh, my top tier businesses like H360 Capital or something that I have direct managerial oversight over. That's priority number one. Priority number two would be the companies that I serve on the board of directors for or my senior advisor for. The priority number three are just companies that I consult with and just have a casual, cordial relationship. And then there's a miscellaneous priority where I will make random calls throughout the day or something like that. And I think if you can prioritize your life like that in a system, a scale of 1 to 5, which has more priority, and you start to look
Mm,
at your schedule and see and then you can look at your schedule and say, how much time am I focusing to high priority? How much time am I focusing the things that are not high priority? Well, I need to either get more high priority things in my life or stop spending time on less priority things in my life. And you start to look at things in perspective. I would change not being wise enough when I was younger to have people around me that I could trust when I was older.
mm. So, the basic idea is surround yourself with great people that you can
Not that
trust.
anybody's not been good for me. I wouldn't say that. I've had some very good people. But as you grow, people have got to grow with you. I always do what I want with my time.
Do you ever feel that obviously, entrepreneurs, you have a huge amount of freedom, but at the same time, like when you're managing and you go to people, you think about the president, he has a lot of freedom. At the same time, he has a lot of responsibility. And do you ever feel like your whole schedule is so planned out that you don't have the freedom?
Well, I think a huge problem is that if you don't put together your perspective appropriately, you will lose yourself. And so clearly, as it relates to me, everything that I do, I mean, I recognize my ability to have freedom in my life, and then secondly, I recognize that everything is of a consequence of another thing. So I might not like going to work some days, but I recognize that in order for me to do the things that I want to do on a big scale, I need to go to that meeting. A few things, right? We talk about we talk about the success I've had. Like, all right. Well, let me put it to you more plainly. For every dollar that I've made, 70% of it has gone to a charitable action or to the community. So
Seventy
I've
percent.
given away 70% of my money. That's without, definitely without, way more than I should be. My tithe says to tithe 10%. I do seven times that.
Wow.
Uh, uh, that's what I'm really proud about. There are a lot of kids that go to college today that are going to college because of something that I contributed to years ago, and they have no idea that I've done that.
Really?
There are a lot of activities that are taking place. We're building a school in New Orleans. I'm building an institute for young men in North Carolina. I'm doing a variety of things, and I think consequently, I'm happy that I had the focus and discipline necessary to create opportunities for others. And I have had the privilege of being in the lives of many people, and I've seen those people develop. And I'm grateful that the greater being in our lives has enabled me to have that kind of influence on others. Yesterday, I was talking to one of my mentees who goes to Tennessee State University. Or no, well, whatever the university is in Knoxville, Tennessee. I know that's where he lives. And he has a friend that he was a roommate with last year that also is one of my mentees. And I said to him, I said, I was surprised. This kid, not the one that I was speaking to last night, but the other kid, he had me in his life, and for a few minutes he enjoyed it. And then, like, every other second was like a challenge to me. He wanted to challenge. He didn't take it seriously. He was not very appreciative. And like over the last 2 months, I've noticed that this young man just reaches out to me on his own, talks to me, and just seems very genuinely thankful that I'm in his life. And one day I asked him, I said, "Why are you thankful?" Because he says he realized how important it is that I'm in his life and how a unique honor it is. I think when we
Mm.
recognize how much of an honor it is to have the lives that we do have, and how blessed we are to have the people in our lives, I think we ultimately become successful because we want to prove all of them right. The point is that I would want something from him that is long term. And so I think we have to think long term, and, you know, utilize these
Mm.
moments and genuinely go after them, right? Like, how many of you, listening, are going to make the effort to reach out to me and to learn more about me on your own, and then reach out to me? Don't reach out to me and be like, how did you achieve X, Y, and Z? And you can easily go Google it. All that's going to be me say to me is that you didn't even prepare yourself to speak to me. But when you reach out to me and you say, help me do X, Y, and Z, how many are actually going to do that and have the guts to do that and then expect me to respond, right? Expectations drive results. if I'm talking to a potential customer, initially in the first 6 months, I probably would not try to sell them anything. I would probably try to offer something for free to them. Right, right. You know, the better question to ask initially is, what can I do for you, as opposed to what they can do for you. So,
Yeah.
how can I help you be more successful? That's a better question. And
So you would build that relationship, and the way you build that relationship is by giving to them and being of value, building trust.
and if you are really valuable, they will realize that when it's time for you to stop giving to them, that they're gonna have to pay you.
If you're just getting started, though, you may not have as much to give. What values can young
Everybody
people
has
give?
something to give, Mike.
What can you give
Everybody
if
has
you're
something
just at
to
the beginning
give.
of your career?
Yeah, you always have something. You always got something to give. I mean, you can always work for free for something. I mean, you could put somebody always needs you to do something. Like my interns, like I have a very competitive internship program, and my interns, they when they apply, they know they're working for free, and I work them to death. But the beautiful thing about working for me as an intern is that I don't make you push paper. I let you run businesses. Well, internship, let's say you just got a degree in public relations, right? And you look at somebody like Hezekiah Griggs, and you're like, that guy, he does a lot of things. Maybe he might be, I know he has a lot of people coming at him. Maybe I should go at him and be like, I see you working on this new institute. Let me, is there a way that I can help you publicize this? I won't even charge you, blah, blah, blah. I just want to get in your business. I want to be helpful to you. And you say, okay. And then Mr. Griggs is like, wow, that's a very nice offer you. And he says, okay, I'll let you do some of that work for me. You put up some press releases, do some of those things like that. And for somebody like me, that's very valuable, obviously.
And as I'm listening to you, I think an underlying principle that you refer back to, and I couldn't agree, this is how I look at my life, is thinking about things in the long term. So many people think, I don't want to work for free, I need the money now. What do you think about that? Am I right on that
You are
principle?
absolutely right. I mean, because when you need the money now, you're going to need the money later. But when you don't think about money now, you never have to think about it later. Hello, that just went over somebody's head. Tell other people the idea and get them to get it off the ground for you.
What's an example of that?
An example of that could be, I don't know if it's an exact example, but I know that everybody knows what mint.com is. Before mint.com, there was a website called wasabi.com. And wasabi is just as intuitive as mint. And clearly, there was a strategy by Mint to watch how Wasabi accrued its users, and then it then went out and accrued all of Wasabi's users. So sometimes you need people to go into the space to legitimatize what you're doing in the first place. So don't be scared by competition. Embrace it, love it, appreciate it. Just make sure your product is better. I think he's just a very smart young man, and I think he is shrewd, and I think he's a natural leader, and I think he gets people to work for him, um, and that's those traits are just hard to duplicate, Michael. I mean, they just you cannot you cannot invent that. I mean, one of the things that venture capitalists ask is, will other entrepreneurs or business people come work for this company, right? And that I see that as uh, a glamour. It's almost like now, if you notice, Michael, in the last 4 years, the name Mark Zuckerberg has become synonymous with Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Like Mark Zuckerberg is that is on that level.
Yeah.
And 4 years ago, if somebody told you the name Mark Zuckerberg, you would have thought that that was somebody from another world. Now it's like, how do you not know who Mark Zuckerberg is? It's pretty incredible. And I mean, you just cannot deny that. I mean, he may not be the most socially conscious guy in the world. He may not be like Bill Gates giving away billions of dollars every year to change it, literally to change the world.
Yeah, yeah.
But he does change the world in his way, his own way, and you just gotta respect that. And that's one of the things that I do. I respect people who deserve to be respected. How do you do it? Well, number one, you gotta have some character. I think people like working with honest people. Right? Honest people get honest people to work for them. You gotta have some character. You gotta have some integrity, meaning you do what you say you're gonna do. You do what you say you're gonna do. And I think people just naturally assimilate around people like that. You just can't do it overnight. You gotta fix that now, right? So everything you do now affects you later. People will remember you. I remember years ago, I knew a lot of people, and a lot of people knew me, and they didn't necessarily like me. But every time something goes on that's important, they always call me because they respect that I'm going to always give them wise counsel and advice. So that's important. You could start maybe a business that studying business. You can education businesses are really big now. So
Yeah, yeah.
I know some young people that are starting a website that's starting websites focused on helping other kids study, tutoring businesses, babysitting businesses,
Yeah.
lawn mowing businesses. I mean,
Yeah.
I know
Wow.
some multi-millionaires who just straight up cut grass for a living.
One of the our young entrepreneurs on the tour did the same
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, listen, I mean, this is amazing. And if I was smart enough, I would have been doing the same thing. I would have had to coast. Uh, uh, I've seen young people start DJing business, party businesses, where they host parties for young people. So there's a slew. There's a slew. You could start businesses that front face services to entrepreneurs. What is if you're really good and connected in technology, and your friends always come to you asking about what's the hot newest technology? Why don't you just start a business that sells the new technology to your friends? I mean, so you got to just imagine what you're really good at, and just find a way somehow to make the business out of that, or look for rather examples of how those are already businesses and start your own similar to it, and use that as a launching pad for what you want to do later on in life. Yeah, because when you have a confluence of people, you just you think a little larger. Rural area individuals would condense their thoughts a little bit more, which is good for an investor because sometimes it's good to just have a central focus. Urban entrepreneurs are trying to deal with complex, more adverse issues in addressing their problems. But I would say it doesn't really matter where you are in this country. In this country, you have the capacity to create ridiculously large ideas. Never forget who you're marketing to. Number one, have people around you constantly that know the market. So even though you were young, doesn't mean that you know what the young people want. Because now, when you run a business, you're no longer just an average young person. You are a business young person. So you got to have people around you. I've always had youth boards on every business that I've had that has something to do with young people. So I create youth advisory boards that help you kind of like have a central focus group, and they wear their suits and ties. I've always found that fascinating. Uh,
So what that might look like is like once a month giving people free pizza or something to
mhm.
give you advice, like a focus
You
group.
that you say you're a youth advisory member, free pizza.
Yeah.
I don't give them free pizza. I mean, I give them a little. I might take them out to eat or something like that, or give them money to go get something to eat on their own. Right, or give them a stipend.
Yeah.
Uh,
How much curiosity would you give to a college student?
to to a college student to be in the youth advisory board. I wouldn't actually. I don't pay college students. So college
Okay.
students, you need to work for free as long as you can because employers look for unpaid internships on your resume. It shows that you have an intrinsic desire for what you want to do.
Hmm.
It looks better. So
I agree
work
with
is free,
that.
for as free as long as you can. Right.
How
So you
about
got
it?
to just comport yourself.
What do you mean comport yourself?
Uh, to to change in the process of your business the way you behave as a business. So if I'm marketing to uh, young ladies who only like to wear stockings, but I don't wear stockings. Well, obviously, I'm going to have to wear stockings when I'm talking to these young ladies. And that's what I mean by comport.
Excellent. So you talked about a few principles. Any other principles that key principles that you can just really need to understand and get?
Make sure your company represents what you want it to represent, right? So if you're advertising or putting a product out there for young entrepreneurs, make sure that everything about your business reinforces what that principle is. I've seen businesses like have like the weirdest names and then have the weirdest slogans, and they say, we do X, Y, and Z. Well, how the heck do you do that? And your business doesn't even make me understand what it is. When you read the words H360 Capital, somehow we are giving something away or providing a resource, right? HC3 Media, it's a media company. I mean, so you got to make sure that there's a behavioral instinct as it relates to the product. Well, pre-sale is the art of selling something before you have to make it, right? So when you're an entrepreneur, you have this ability to pre-sell something before you actually pay for it to be made, right? So it's an account receivable process. So I might, say like the greatest pre-sale place in the world is QVC. They
Yeah, that's great.
they they put a watch on TV, says get this watch. You see it moves from left to right, right? Isn't that a wonderful watch? We only got 50 of these, right? Who's gonna buy it? And the phone starts to ring. Now they don't really have 50 of them in the back about to be shipped off. At least that's not what I think. Just for the purpose of this demonstration, they don't really have them back there. Right.
Yeah.
What they've done is they pre-sold 50 watches, and now they're going to say to the manufacturer, "I want 50 watches at this gross rate." And now we know as a result of that, I'm going to make a profit. So they never have to come out of their pocket for what they sell. It's pretty interesting. The opposite of that is the stock sell, which is to have an abundance of stock of a certain product and then sell based off of that. And there might be some value in that, depending on if you have cash and capital. The market will dictate value. So if you can buy something that normally would cost $2 for $1, and you could just basically buy as much of that as you can, obviously you're going to get a lot of value out of that by
Do
stock
you think
sales.
generally people should stock sell or pre-sell? You think about the average young entrepreneur starting a
The
business.
young entrepreneur should pre-sell as much as they can. I would say one of my favorite singers is Nina Simone. She's a singer song. She sang a song says, "I wish I knew how it feels to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could fly like a bird in the sky." And in the end, she says, "I wish that you knew how it feels to be me. Then you'd see and agree that everyone should be free." I want you to remember to never forget what it means to be who you are supposed to be. And by understanding your purpose, Make sure that everybody else knows and sees and can agree that everyone should be just as free of having the potential and positive matriculation that all of you can. Somebody was inspired today because I decided to not let my light be dimmed in this moment. And so I expect all of you to inspire someone else eventually in your lives, even tomorrow, if you believe it, it can happen. And then lastly, I'd say to you, don't ever give up on your dreams because your dreams will never give up on you.